So later on you can go quote my lines to your people and folk. And they say, dang, that boy be spitting that pressure. And he be smoking that pressure. And he's smart as a professor. Yes sir, 25 lighters on dresser. Pound of that pressure, sitting right next to a book and a gun. Valor the bullet, you better use one.
Bitcoin fact of the day. This is a popular segment I'm bringing into my podcast from my Facebook page. It is when I describe and explain things going on in the Bitcoin world, whether it's structural things, technical things, people things, user things around Bitcoin. Today, oddly enough, my topic isn't really about Bitcoin, but I only came up with 3 segments, so I have to fit everything into them. So I will try to make this about Bitcoin because it is about money, and it is about the petrodollar, which if you have talked to me recently, second to Bitcoin, the petrodollar is my biggest fascination currently. And that's because it explains like 99% of everything that's going on in geopolitics. We say, hold on, 99%, that sounds ridiculous. No one makes claims like that. In fact, people say geopolitics is confusing and doesn't make sense. And even the experts agree. And you know what? The experts need to look into the petrodollar because it explains a lot more than you realize. So what is the petrodollar? Petrodollar is a unstated but explicit policy that says if you are an oil-producing nation, you need to sell your oil in U.S. dollars, meaning you accept only U.S. dollars. And if you don't, you are the enemy of the free world, and the U.S. Marines and the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force are going to come and they're going to topple your dictatorship or your democracy or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. We're going to come and kill you. Pretty hardcore, pretty gangster. So, why am I talking about this? Well, I'm talking about it because, like I said, people don't realize it's a thing. And as a result of that, U.S. policymakers and thinkers and forward-looking people don't realize there's a huge contradiction in requests that are being put out right now. So what do I mean by that? There's 2 really big trends going on that seem not connected at all, but in fact are. So on one hand, we have people who are really concerned about global warming. They want us to get away from oil, which I think is great. They want us to stop subsidizing it. They want us to stop going to war for it, which they sort of understand is behind it, but they haven't pieced together all the straightforward implications of the petrodollar. But so far so good, excellent. So what does it mean? What would happen if we move away from an oil-based dollar, an oil-based economy? If it were to happen immediately, the economy would crash because the U.S. dollar would now be almost worthless. It would be chaos, and honestly, that's probably not going to happen. But that's on the one extreme, and the other extreme is we stay in the oil world, and the U.S. dollar keeps doing fine until there's some other kind of calamity that changes that. So there's this global warming thing. There's this protecting like the land of indigenous people thing. They're all kind of converging around protecting the earth. Great. Moving away from oil towards electricity, wind, great, good stuff. Here's where it gets kind of weird. The U.S. government let's put my conspiracy hat on. I don't have to be right. I've watched enough podcasts to know that the good ones say a lot of bullshit. So I don't have to be right. But let's say there's this conspiracy. Under the guise of global warming protection and environmentalism, the U.S. government is buying a lot of land. The U.S. government owns the majority of a lot of states in the middle of the country. An obscene amount. And if I had remembered, I would have put a tab up about it. But, when Barack Obama left, he left adding apparently the most amount of federal land to the government stewardship. There's lots of ways you can describe stewardship, ownership, theft, whatever. But they now claim to protect it and, can prevent people from using it and owning it as property. And that poses a very interesting kind of out for the petrodollar, because what that really looks like, it looks like it's debt collateral. If the U.S., is 100+% GDP to debt, which we are, and our budgets show no indication of her paying it down, and presumably things get worse because there's no reason to think they're not going to based on recent events and policy, how are we ever going to get out of debt? And if we get our way and we move away from the oil-based economy and we move to electricity and the US dollar starts to suffer, and it probably dramatically suffers, how does the U.S. dig themselves out? What's their trump card? Oh my God, trump card. Fuck. The trump card's land. So, us hippies, I'm not a hippie, whatever, but us people who are like, yeah, stewardship of the land, protecting the land, no global warming, no oil, we're actually potentially getting into a situation where the government sells off the land to other countries or corporations or trusts or whatever to eventually pay off the debt. And that's going to create a very interesting situation. I can't pretend to understand what that'll look like, but I want to call it out because it's interesting because it's something that people are asking for without realizing the implications of it, or that there even are potential implications of it, other than, yes, it's just great, no, this is federal land. Don't mess with it. That was a little too unstructured of a rant. I don't know if you got anything out of it. Whatever. If you're still listening, thank you.